بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وعلى من تبع هداهم إلى يوم الدين. Indeed, all praise is due to Allah. May peace and blessings be upon His Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Welcome back to our book Al-Wajeez. This is the second part of the divorce, in which in the first part we have talked about a number of issues. I would like just to go on to the titles of those issues that we have spoken about. We said about the talaq and the meaning of it. We talked about the legalization of it. And we said that the talaq sometimes becomes that is obligatory, sometimes it becomes prohibited, and sometimes becomes disliked, and sometimes like a bit permissible. And we have given an example for all of that. And also we talked about the talaq is from the right of the man. It's not for the women to make the talaq, it's the man who passes the talaq. As for the women, she's going to be asking for khula, which we'll be speaking about inshallah today. And we said that the woman, she's not allowed to ask her husband for the talaq without a legitimate reason. And also we said that the talaq is to be stipulated and to be made to go ahead if it comes from certain conditions. So for example, the person, if he's in a state of drunkenness, if you remember, we talked about how that the state of drunkenness is differentiated between somebody who knows what he's talking about and somebody who doesn't know what he's talking about, somebody who's angry as well, somebody who's not an adult. All of that we've spoken about it, and that is from whom the talaq is to be valid. We talked about the talaq of the one who comes insane and also the one who is joking. And we said that the talaq of the person who is joking is different from the person who makes a mistake. So if I made a slip of a tongue toward my wife and I said, you are talaq, and I didn't mean that, that's no problem. It's not going to happen. But the problem is if you have said it deliberately, you didn't make a mistake, but you meant as a joke, it will take place. And we said the talaq before the marriage, it does not take place. The talaq before the marriage, it does not. So if you are not married, you can't say, if I get married, then I'm divorced already. Or she's my wife, she's divorced 3 times. That will not be counted whatsoever. Then we talked about the talaq in terms of explicit and implicit. We talked about the talaq with the writing as well. We talked about the talaq with person who's deaf, dumb, can't speak. And we talked about the talaq of other people's language as well. All of that, it will take place as long as you have intended to make the talaq. Then we talked about the talaq, that if the person spoken about the talaq inside himself, did not say it. So he said, this, my wife is talaq, but inside himself, it will not take count, as we talked about as well. And we said as well, you could have and pass power of attorney to another person to pass talaq on your behalf onto that wife of yours. And then we talked about the talaq, which is a sunni wal bid'i. What is the talaq al-sunni and the talaq al-bid'i? The sunni is the one which is done in the right conditions, and the bid'i is the one you've done it because of when she was in her menses, or she was in her pure time, but you have already had intercourse with her, so you can't make talaq because you're gonna make the iddah unknown because she could be pregnant. And we talked about the talaq of as well the ta'liq wa tanjiz. A ta'liq, that means to make the talaq is hooked to a certain thing. So you are making talaq when something had happened. A ta'liq here that we meant by it, and I would like to go to it because so many people make talaq in terms of like it's an oath. So we have to make sure that you differentiate between the oath and between the talaq. Okay, so that is why I want to emphasize that point. For verily, a talaq is either a tanjiz, I mean straight away, anti-talaq. You are talaq, she'll be divorced. Okay, so this is something which is not attached to a condition. If you do something, you are talaq. So that will take place, it's called munjaz. And this talaq will take place straight away. The talaq al-mu'allaq, which is conditional talaq, is based upon and hooked to and conditioned to certain something. So this is where the husband makes the talaq is to be conditional to something, like for example, that if you went to such and such place, then you are talaq. When this thing takes place, it has to have fulfilled three conditions, as we've said. Condition number one, that you make the talaq on a condition which is not there. So you are saying that if this happened, so if this thing is already happened, it doesn't make sense. So if, for example, that you're making a talaq to your wife in that form during the daylight, and you said if the daylight comes out, okay, you are a talaq, and already the daylight is there. So this is actually, it's not a conditional talaq, because even though it came in the form of a condition, but it's not conditional, because you're saying if the daylight comes out, you are talaq, but the daylight is there. And the second condition, or also in that first condition, if you made talaq on something which is impossible to take place. So if you said, for example, if you go to the moon, then you are talaq. It's impossible to go to the moon. If the moon becomes greater than the size of the sun, then you are talaq, you are divorced. This is impossible to take place. Or like we say, for example, if the camel is to go through the eye of the needle, you are talaq. It's not going to take place, because there's no way that the camel or the big rope going to go from the eye of the needle. The second condition is that the woman whom she is having this conditional talaq is to be his wife. So if she's already divorced, how can you make a conditional divorce? And the third condition, and that is that the actual wife is as well as his wife when the conditional takes place. So if, for example, you have said a conditional talaq, that when the daylight comes out and you are during the night, okay, then you are talaq. Okay, we said that she's to be his wife. But also she has to be his wife on the following day, when that daylight comes in. So maybe later on, after 2 or 3 hours, you divorced her. So that conditional talaq is not going to take place. The fourth condition I'm going to add here, that's why I just wanted to recap. A fourth condition is that the niyyah, the intention of the person who is making such a conditional talaq. Because this is the conditional I'm going to talk about. The conditional here is two types. Conditional is two types. A conditional, which is that you are actually doing it like an oath, is to encourage somebody to do something, to threaten him. So, for example, if you come out of this house, you are talaq. And actually, you don't want it to make talaq. It's actually, you want to threaten her. You want to prevent her to go out, okay? And not to basically to impose the talaq and to perform the talaq and divorce, okay? That's what we say that is an oath. And the second part of that, which is conditional, is that you are intending to make the talaq takes place once this condition is fulfilled. So this is, we call it the conditional talaq. Like, for example, if you said to her that if you come out, you are talaq, but you meant here that you are talaq. It's not to prevent her from coming out, but you are talaq, khalas, I don't want you. So she's divorced. Or for example, if you said that if you have actually exempt me from the mahar of yours, which I haven't paid yet to you, then you are talaq. Okay? Because you're saying to her that because I have to pay the mahar of yours, that's why I'm really married to you. But if you exempt me from paying the rest of the mahar, okay, I'll release you, you're talaq. And you meant the talaq that will take place. So this is why we say we have to differentiate between the two. And Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah and Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahumullah, they have detailed this issue. And they talked about it in details, and they said, how is the difference between the talaq, which is a conditional talaq, but yet the person intends to prevent his wife doing something, to threaten her, and that works as an oath, or a talaq he meant as a talaq, which will take place as soon as that condition is to be fulfilled. So Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahmatullah alayhi, he says in his Majmu' al-Fatawa, and I'm reading here, that he said the talaq of the people is to be three types. One, which is tanjeez, so which is straight away, you are talaq, you divorce, so this one will take place. And this is not an oath, and there is no expiation for it. And this is with the consensus of all scholars. Second one, which is a ta'liq, conditional talaq. Like, for example, he says, this talaq is a binding upon me, talaq is a binding upon me that I will do such and such and such. This is an oath. He says, talaq is binding upon me that I will do such and such. This is not a talaq. Alhamdulillah. This is not a talaq. This is with the consensus of all the language people. Alhamdulillah. Linguistically speaking, this talaq is to be an oath. It's like you threaten the person. Alayya talaq. Talaq is upon me, binding upon me. I will do such and such. So he's not talking to his wife. He's using the word talaq, but to make this an oath upon him. Alayya talaq, upon me, abiding upon me, the divorce I will go to such and such place and I will do such and such. That's not talaq with the consensus of all scholars. That's an oath. The third one, excuse me, just put issues here. The third time, which is the conditional one, but this conditional one is a different way, which is, he said, if my wife did such and such, she is taliq. Now here we have differentiation. If he meant the oath, it becomes an oath. That means he's not really wants talaq, but he wants the wife not to do what he had said to her to do. And if he meant the talaq, then it would take place as a talaq. Okay, so let's give an example. If he gave me, my wife, 1,000, you are talaq. And if you are to fornicate, you are talaq. And he intended this talaq as soon as this condition will take place. Once she gives him 1,000, once she fornicates, then this is not an oath, and talaq, it will take place, and there is no kafara for this, according to the fuqaha or any of the fuqaha that we know about. As the Shaykh Islam Taymiyyah, he says, the talaq would take place as soon as this condition would take place. And our Shaykh al-Albani was asked regarding this issue, what happens if somebody had said that if you did so and so that you are taliq? He said, rahmatullahi alayhi, that if this condition is to take place and he is intending to discipline his wife, then talaq will not take place. But if he wanted to he intended the talaq, the divorce, then he has to get a witness, which we'll be talking about getting a witness if he wanted the talaq. Otherwise, it is not going to take as a talaq because he wanted to discipline his wife. Also, rahmatullahi alayhi, he said in another occasion, he said that if the person had made a conditional talaq in order to scare his wife, and he does not intend the divorce. So, for example, a wife of his, she has a lot of visits, and she goes out of the house a lot of times. And he had given her admonition, and he had advised her so many times. So, for the sake of threatening her and making her scared, said, if you go and visit, you go out and visit, then you are taliq. And he actually wanted to discipline her. So talaq will not take place from her. Talaq will not take place from him, sorry. Now, if, for example, he had said, Shaykh al-Albani had said, if the person, he said, for example, that if he had seen his wife with his neighbor, and he said, if I see you with your neighbor, I will divorce you, then the divorce will take place because he intends talaq here. He's not intending the threat. Okay? So it's any way to do with the intention. Okay? So whatever is intended to discipline the person, to prompt him to do something, prevent him from doing something, okay, or to belie him, or to to believe him, and all of that, and you do not intend the talaq to take place, then the talaq will not take place. It will become as an oath, okay, and this oath has one of the two. This oath is either this oath is munaqid, that is taken place, then you have to expiate, or it's not munaqid. What is not munaqid? Like, for example, you're making an oath by creations, and this is not allowed, haram, but it will not be expiated. Okay, so either it is munaqida, which is muhtarama, and a yameen, which is an oath that is protected and respected. Okay, so it will be, inshallah, expiated. Okay, otherwise it will not be expiated. طيب. Now, so here he says that if, for example, this person made a conditional talaq linked to a future, okay, where at certain time if it comes, then the talaq take place. For example, if you say to your wife, you are taliq tomorrow, or you are taliq at the end of the year, well, talaq will come and take place tomorrow or at the end of the year. As long as the woman, she was in his custody, she's his wife, then this talaq will take place. As the scholars had said, Al-Imam al-Bukhari rahmatullahi alayhi talked about it. And as I said a number of times, also Sheikh al-Albani had talked about it. And I've also mentioned and quoted the Sheikh al-Albani before. So this is the difference between an oath and difference between a conditional talaq where the person intends divorce, not to intend to discipline his wife or to prevent her from doing something or prompt her to do something. But alhamdulillah, that is the thing that I wanted to talk about, which is talaq al-mu'allaq wa tanjeez. Now we come to the talaq of the 3 divorce. So let's go ahead, ya Ismail. Have I talked about the talaq which is to do with the one who is young or the one that has got no menses? Have I talked about that, ya Ismail, before? Ismail?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Right, let's just talk about this as well to add it to the, before we talk about the divorce of the 3. For verily, the person needs to know that the woman, she has no menses. Ibn Hazm rahmatullahi alayhi says, the one she does not menstruate or her menstruation had stopped, for Allah Azza wa Jal had given us the permission in his Quran to make the talaq to take place. And also he had clarified for us the talaq, the divorce of a woman who is pregnant, and the talaq also the one who does not menstruate. Okay, and but he says here, but Allah Azza wa Jal did not give us regarding the one who does not menstruate, not the one, sorry, he gave us the talaq regarding the one who menstruate, but did not talk about the one who does not menstruate, or regarding the one whom her menstruation had stopped because of old age or a certain reason because of illness. So is it permissible for us to make a talaq to such a person? We say yes, it is. So the talaq of the woman who is not menstruating, or women who was menstruating but the menstruation stopped for a reason either because of old age or it is because of illness, that talaq will take place and it is going to be valid. Right. Let's talk about now the talaq of the 3. Brother.
3 divorces. If a husband divorces his wife thrice in one sentence or thrice in one setting, it is in fact only one divorce. Muslim recorded that Ibn Abbas said, during the time of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Abu Bakr and the first 2 years of Umar, 3 divorces stated at once was considered one divorce. Umar ibn al-Khattab then said, the people are making haste in a matter that should take time for them. Maybe we should enforce this upon them. So he then enforced this upon them. This opinion from Umar was his own personal legal reasoning, which he felt was permissible due to a specific benefit he was seeking to achieve. However, it is not allowed to abandon what the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam ruled and what his companions were following during his time and during the time of his successor.
Jazakallahu khairan. Right. Basically, we talked about that at the end because somebody asked me a question. If a person said to his wife, divorce 3 times, 4 times, like this, he said divorce multiplied by 4. Divorce, which is cube, divorce 3 times, like this, 3 times. You are divorced 3 times. Or he said, you are divorced, you are divorced, you are divorced. So he said the word divorce 3 times. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. So either he said, you are divorced 3 times. He said the word 3 times or 4 times. Or he said the word, you are divorced, you are divorced, you are divorced. If you count how many divorces you've got, 3 or more. Okay, so he says here, is this considered to be according to what he said? Or is considered to be 1? The whole thing that he's talking about, our author here, is that basically that was something at the time of Umar only, radiallahu anhu, where he made the 3 to be 3. Whereas at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions, the 3, okay, were to be 1. Even 4 or 5, regardless, it will be 1. And Umar al-Khattab, he had his reasons. We're going to talk about them inshallah in a minute. Then later on, and this has been adopted by Umar, and then later on after him as well, Ali and the Khilafah, up to even Al-Imam Abu Hanifa, up to even the Imam Malik, Imam Shafi'i, Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, until the 6th century, where Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah had come, and he had said, well, at the time of Umar, he had his reasons to make his own ijtihad. But the case was at the time of the Prophet and at the time of the companions, before Umar, he took Khilafah. At the time of Abu Bakr, the 3 were to be 1. So why should we adopt what Umar had adopted later on? Okay, and we're going to see why he did after that. So Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahmatullah alayhi, he returned that, and also those who oppose Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, even accusing of Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah to be Wahhabi. Muhammad Wahhabi came about 700 years 700 years after Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, 700 years. Yet they accusing Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah to be Wahhabi, attributed to somebody who has been born after him 700 years. Subhanallah. These ones who accuse Shaykh al-Islam to be Wahhabi, they don't like Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah. And there are some of them as well, madhabiyun, following a specific madhab. Yet with all of this, subhanallah, when it comes to this matter, they refer and they would accept and they would resort to the fatwa of Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah. It's amazing. They pick what they want according to their whims and desire, not according to what is good and what is bad. All the Imam 4, Abu Hanifa, Imam Malik, Imam Shafi'i, Imam Ahmad, and other Imams, they say that the 3 will be 3 according to what Umar al-Khattab had said. Yet those who are following those madahib, they leave this madahib, and in there even fatawa, which are the official ones in those countries who adopt, for example, Shafi'i or Hanafi, they adopt Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah is madhab in most of the countries. Right. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he said, At-talaqu marratan. At-talaq is to be twice, 2 times. Because the 3rd one will be khalas, finished. Allah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, he said, the talaq at the time of the Prophet ﷺ and Abu Bakr, and 2 years of the Khilafah of Umar. 2 years. What did you translate that? You said, did you say years or 2 years, Ya'am, when you said? You said that Abdullah ibn Abbas said, talaq on the time of the Prophet and Abu Bakr. Did you say 2 years? Yeah, Ismail.
The first 2 years of Umar.
Yeah, very good. Because in Arabic it's not correct. So he corrected it in translation. And the first 2 years of the Khilafah of Umar, okay, that the talaq of the 3, it will be counted as 1. Umar al-Khattabi said, people started using this thing. And they started, abusing the divorce system. So we will make it the 3-3, that's it, to teach them a lesson. Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah says in Fatawa that if he had given her divorce 3 times in one purified time, that means in one gathering, in one tuhr, there is no menses came on, just in one tuhr. So from one menses to one menses, he gave her 3 divorces with 1 word or many words. Like he says, and I'm quoting here Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah, if he said, for example, Anti taliq, thalathan, you are divorced 3 times, or Anti taliq, 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 thumma taliq, you are divorced, 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 and you're divorced. Or he says, you are divorced. Then he stops. Then he says, you are divorced. Then he stops and says, you are divorced, or you are divorced 3 times, or 10 times, or 100 divorces, or 1,000 divorces, or any of these expressions. The scholars of the Salaf and the Khalaf had 3 opinions regarding this. Whether this woman, she's already had her marriage consummated, or it was not consummated. Some of the Salaf had differentiated between the woman who had her marriage consummated or the one did not have consummation. And another opinion, which is the 4th one, which is a bid'ah. Let's talk about it. First one, he said, that is talaqun mubahun lazim. This saying of taliq, 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 or taliq 100 times, and all of this, what he said, is that it will be talaq, considered to be divorce, and it is mubah, and it is permissible, and it's abiding. So he said it 3 times, taliq, 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 it will take place. And this is the saying of Al-Imam al-Shafi'i and Al-Imam Ahmad in one of his narrations in the old one. And the second opinion is that the expression is to be haram, muharram, prohibited. The first one was what? Permissible. This is muharram, but still abiding. So both the first opinion, second opinion are the same in terms of abiding. It will take place, valid. It will take place at 3 times or 4 times the way that you said it. But one says haram, one says halal. One says permissible, one says impermissible. And the second opinion, which says impermissible to do, but yet it will take place, this is the saying of Imam Malik and Abu Hanifa and Imam Ahmad in one of his narration, which is the later one. And this is that the one which most of his companions of Imam Ahmad had chosen as to be the narration that is famous from their Imam Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, and it's been narrated from a number of the Salaf as-Salih. The third opinion, which is haram. So it is muharram, just like the second opinion, impermissible, but is not abiding except for 1 talaqah. So it is not permissible to say, you're going to be sinned for that, but that 3, 1 divorce, 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 or divorce 3 times, it will be considered to be 1 divorce. And this is the opinion which is narrated by so many scholars of the Sahaba of the Salaf, like Zubayr ibn Awam, Abdul Rahman ibn Auf, and Ali ibn Mas'ud, Ibn Abbas. Ibn Abbas has got 2 sayings, by the way, in it. And it is most of the sayings of the Tabi'in, the followers after them, Tawus, Khallas ibn Amr, and Muhammad ibn Ishaq, and also the saying of Dawood, and all his companions. And also it was narrated by Abu Ja'far, Muhammad ibn Ali ibn al-Hasan, and other scholars, which I don't want to go ahead and mention all of them. But this says that this saying, and also it is from the saying of some of the followers of Imam Abu Hanifa, and also Imam Malik and Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. Right. This is the one that we champion, as we're going to see. Third one. Fourth one, which we said it is a bid'i, and this is the saying of al-Mu'tazila and al-Shia, where they have no trace and support from the Salaf to support what they say. And that is, if he said taliq, 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 nothing on him. Nothing will take place. Okay? So the third opinion, which we said it is not permissible, you're going to sin to be saying taliq, taliq, but it will not be abiding in the number, it will be taken as 1 divorce. This is what the book and the Sunnah supports. For verily every talaq that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala legalized in the Quran regarding the woman who has been having her marriage consummated is the talaq al-raj'i. Talaq al-raj'i, that means revocable, reversible, raj'i. For verily no one that Allah Azza wa Jal had legalized for him to make the talaq of the 3 together. And no, as well, he did not legalize the Almighty that the person would make talaq upon the woman whom had her marriage consummated to be in one go, ba'in. Ba'in, as we have said before, ba'in is not reversible. That means it's not revocable. There's no cooling off period. You cannot make a talaq to a woman whom she is being consummated her marriage, okay? Consummated her marriage, unless it was the 3rd divorce. So you have to admit that you already had second 2 divorces. The third one, yes, you will be a stranger. But to make a talaq on a woman who's the first talqa or the second talqa, to make her a stranger by that talqa, it's not. It cannot be. So how can we legalize to make her to be a stranger straight away by saying divorce 3 times? Where is the hikmah of the cooling off period? Because you have to have talaq, then cooling off period. Then after that, they want to go back, or they continue until the iddah is finished and then they are strangers. But you have to have cooling off period. This is called reversible, revocable. That's why the talaq of the 3 is not correct. And Umar al-Khattabi had done it as an ijtihad. He had arrived to this conclusion because of his time, that the people were messing about with the divorce system. So he says, Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, as for the talaq of the one who had her marriage not to be consummated, for verily, that is straight away, as soon as he makes talaq, whether it's once or twice or 3 times, he's already a stranger. You know, if you made talaq of the woman whom you just had a contract with her, but yet did not make the intercourse with her, you did not stay with her in one room, okay? You just made and you made divorce, stay with that divorce will make a stranger. We call it ba'in. That means she is ba'in. Okay? There will be, on that woman, there will be no iddah of cooling off period. There will be no cooling off period. Okay? So that is the talaq. But she has to stay for a month, and then after that she get married to somebody else. But it is ba'in straight away. Just like a woman who's been divorced twice, and this is the 3rd time. Third one is ba'in. That's it. She's not, he can't go back to her. This one, he can't go back to her until she gets another marriage, because straight away she becomes a stranger. Then he says, Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah, rahmatullah in his fatawa, there is nothing in the proofs of the Sharia, whether the book or the Sunnah or the consensus of the Sahaba, or even the qiyas, which is the analogy, that is the process of deduction, for the process of deducing a law out of the book and the Sunnah and the Sahaba, which makes that the 3 to be abiding, because his nikah was certain to be taken place, and his wife, she is not allowed to be a wife of others. Haram. So by saying that the 3 is abiding, that you are actually making it legal for her to be with somebody else. And also not to be for you to go back to her by saying 1, 2, 3, 4. You are divorced 4 times or 5 times. And this will lead you to the nikah of at-tahleel, which we have talked about. This is one of the marriages which is not false, which is the marriage that is to make it permissible for the wife who's been divorced 3 times to go back to her husband by making a deal with the other person. This is the tahleel, which is the nikah, which is prohibited by Allah and His Messenger. So this nikah at-tahleel, he says, it was not seen at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, nor at the time of his companions who came, which is the khulafa. And it was not being as well narrated whatsoever at all, that a woman whom she has been sent back after the 3rd divorce at the time to the husband with the nikah of tahleel. Actually, the Prophet of Allah, he had cursed this muhallil and muhallalah. Right. So also Shaykh al-Taymiyyah says in his fatawa, some salaf, they said that if a person divorces his wife 3 times with one word, that he is an ignorant person in the sunnah, so he should be returned to the sunnah. And then he talked about the 3 types or the 3 opinions of that. Right. Now, khair inshallah. Right, so we say that Abdullah ibn Abbas, he had 2 sayings, and the saying that we're concerned about, this is the saying which he said that, rahmatullahi alayhi, Abdullah ibn Abbas, that if a person had said, you are divorced 3 times, is to be considered 1. How can I divorce somebody? You remember when we said the divorce of a woman who is divorced, it does not take place. You remember when we said a divorce of a woman who is not married to the person, he's already divorced or is not married to him, it will not take place. So once you say you are divorced, then you are divorced. The second divorce happened to a woman who already you are divorced. So how can you divorce already a woman who's divorced? That's why you can't add up the second and the third. So when you say you're divorced, the second time you are divorced, at the same time you say divorce, you are divorcing a woman whom you divorced her. It will not take place. So to have her iddah, and if you want to within her 3 menses, she becomes a stranger, then you could marry her again. But you're allowed to go back to her within her iddah. So if you went back to her after you divorced her, and then after that you divorce a second time, yes, it will count second time. But divorce, and then she's in her iddah, divorce, she's in her iddah, divorce, but she's divorced. You're divorcing a woman who's divorced. And you're making her to be banned from you, which is not allowed. It is called revocable, not irrevocable. It's called reversible. Raj'iyun. It's not irreversible. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. And as I said, if we're going to talk about this issue as well, of the 3 divorce, it will take us a long class. I'm just saying to you what we say regarding this issue, that it is 3 divorces or 4. Somebody said, he's sick of his wife, you are divorced to the power 1000. He's going to count one as one divorce. All of that is haram to be said, because you are actually messing about with the divorce. But before we go to the khul', there is something important we need to talk about. Okay? So, as a conclusion, we said, Khairul Huda, Hadi Muhammadin Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. The best of guidance, the guidance of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And he had implemented the verse, At-talaqul marratan. So, that is, you cannot make the talaq more than like 3 times in one go. 1 talaq, then you go back, 1 talaq, and you go back. And that's it. طيب. The one which is important, al-ishhad, which you need to add it to our book, al-ishhad, which is to take a witness. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, in Surah Al-Talaq, verse number 1 and verse number 2. Allah Azza wa Jal, He says, Ya ayyuhan nabi, O Prophet of Allah, إِذَا طَلَّقْتُمُ النِّسَاءَ, if you divorce the women, فَطَلِّقُوهُنَّ لِعِدَّتِهِنَّ, that is, divorce them to their iddah. وَأَحْصُوا الْعِدَّةِ, and count for the iddah. Means count how many months until she finishes. وَأَحْصُوا وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ رَبَّكُمْ, and fear Allah, your Lord. لَا تُخْرِجُوهُنَّ مِنْ بُيُوتِهِمْ, do not expel them from their houses, because it's still your wife. وَلَا يَخْرُجْنَ, and also themselves, they should not be coming out. إِلَّا أَن يَأْتِينَ بِفَاحِشَةٍ مُبَيِّنٍ, unless they bring a clear fahisha, fornication. وَتِلْكَ حُدُودُ اللَّهِ, this is the inviolables of Allah Azza wa Jal. This is the borders of Allah. وَمَن يَتَعَدَّ حُدُودَ اللَّهِ, وَمَن يَتَعَدَّ حُدُودَ اللَّهِ, and he who has gone overboard over the borders of Allah, فَقَدْ ظَلَمَ نَفْسَهُ, he had wronged himself. لَا تَدْرِي, you don't know. لَعَلَّ اللَّهَ يُحْدِثُ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ أَمْرًا, maybe Allah Azza wa Jal will make an issue of that. They will come back maybe. فَإِذَا بَلَغْنَا أَجَلَهُنْ, if they come to and reach their time, that is the time of the end of the iddah. فَأَمْسِكُهُنَّ بِمَعْرُوفٍ أَوْ فَارِقُهُنَّ بِمَعْرُوفٍ, that is, either you hold them back, either you keep them as wife, or you separate with them from them بِمَعْرُوف. مَعْرُوف in kind, in kindment. You are kind to her. It's not really a wrestling match here. So if she reached the end of her period, end of her 3 menses, or the end of, if she was pregnant, she's about to deliver her baby, either you keep her, you say that I want you, okay, khalas, return you back, you kiss her, whatever, you hug her, or you separate. All of that in ma'ruf. Ma'ruf means in kindness. That's the word. In kindness, in good. And then he said, وَأَشْهِدُوا ذَوَيْ عَدْلٍ مِّنْكُمْ, and take 2 witnesses which are adl. Adl, the person who prays, person who's an adult, okay, person who's as well sane. These are 3 conditions. Person who is adl means prays, and he's a Muslim and he's committed to his deen. And a person who is, and of course he's to be a man, he has to be a male. وَأَشْهِدُوا ذَوَيْ عَدْلٍ مِّنْكُمْ, male, 2 witnesses, so 2 witnesses, male, and they are to be pious, committed to their deen, they are sane and they are adults. وأقيموا الشهادة لله ذلكم يوعظ من كان يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر ومن يتق الله يجعل له مخرجا. Now the scholars had differed regarding the word ishhad, that is وأشهدوا ذوي عدل منكم, and take two witnesses of your people who are to be pious. Is these two witnesses is to witness when I go back to my wife or my divorce, or to witness when I divorced my wife? Or is it on both of them? Because this is a very important issue. So when Allah He said, وَأَشْهِدُوا ذَوَيْ عَدْلٍ مِنْكُمْ, it was mentioned straight away after the word أَوْ فَارِقُهُنَّ بِمَعْرُوفٍ. When you do separate. Is that now the shahada? Is it when you divorced her or when you went back to her? I mean, it looks like when you know, if you look at the ayah without investigating, you say that maybe it's only the shahada is only not for the divorce. It's only for holding back, not to depart from her. So in Sahih al-Bukhari, the hadith was narrated that in the saying of the Allah Azza wa Jalla, يا أيها النبي إذا طلقتم النساء فطلقوهن لعدتهن وأحصوا العدة. Okay, so in that one, he says أحصيناه. The word أحصيناه means حفظناه وعددناه. We have counted it and we have memorized it. That is, and then the talaq sunnah, sunnah divorce. That is, he makes talaq onto her, طاهرا من غير جماع, in a time of period, or a time period which is did not make intercourse with her. Then he says, and to take two witnesses. Al-Hafidh ibn Hajar rahmatullahi alayhi, he says regarding this issue, and he says, when taking two witnesses is being taken from the saying of Allah, وَأَشْهِدُوا ذَوَيْ عَدْلٍ مِنْكُمْ, and that is clear. And this is what Abdullah ibn Abbas he said, that is, there was some people from the Muhajirun who used to divorce without iddah, and they will bring back without witnesses. So this ayah was sent down. Right. Now, as I said, the scholars had differed regarding it. And it's very important to understand that which side from this difference that we are on. When we look at the sayings of number of Salaf, from them, for example, Imam Abdullah ibn Abbas, whom he said, you have to have two witnesses. A witness, which is for two witnesses for talaq, and the two witnesses for bringing back. So in both. Also, this is the saying of Ata ibn Abi Rabah, which is one of the great scholars of the followers. He said, "An-nikahu bi-shuhud." To marry, you have witnesses, and to divorce, you have witnesses. And when you bring back when she's divorced, bring her when she's in her iddah, to bring her back, you have as well witnesses. وَأَشْهِدُوا ذَوَيْ عَدْلٍ مِنْكُمْ. So we have here the saying of Abdullah ibn Abbas, the saying also of Ata, and also we have the saying of Imran ibn Husayn. Imran ibn Husayn radiallahu anhu, he was asked about a man, and this is authentic in Sunan Abi Dawood. He was asked about a man whom had divorced his wife, and he went back to her, and he did not take witnesses on the divorce, nor he took witnesses onto the time when he returned her back. So he said, radiallahu anhu, he had said to that person, طَلَّقْتَ لِغَيْرِ سُنَّةٍ, you have divorced that woman, we don't have against the sunnah. You contradicted the sunnah of the Prophet of Allah. وَرَجَعْتَ لِغَيْرِ سُنَّةٍ, and also you brought her back to your marriage, your custody, without as well as sunnah. You have to take ashhid ala talaqiyah, take her witnesses for her divorce, and also witnesses for bringing her back. Don't do this again. Now the word "don't do this again," does that mean that divorce takes place or not? That's another issue. So if you have divorced your wife and you did not take witnesses, does that divorce take place regardless of whether you meant it or not? Do you understand what I'm saying? You meant the divorce. You are Palach, but there's no witnesses except for you and your wife. Does that divorce take place? That's another issue, okay, which is very important as well to understand. Okay, in terms of that if, for example, the wife, she took the matter to a judge and she said, my husband divorced me. Open, he said, you divorce. You asked him, he's divorced. And the husband, he said, I didn't mean it, or I didn't say it, or whatever. And she did not produce witnesses. Okay? Then the word is his word. And the judge will go by his word. Okay? So the judge will go and take his word, not her word, regarding this. And he himself either will make this divorce take place without witnesses, which is against the sunnah, as we've said, as Imran al-Husayni said, but because he intends and he wants to go along with it. He wants to go along with it. And that's our Shaykh, rahmatullah alayhi, our Shaykh al-Albani, rahmatullah alayhi. We've asked him regarding this issue. And we said to him, for verily, a person did not divorce his wife and did not take shuhud, did not take as witnesses at the time. Then later on, he told his brothers that he had divorced. So our Shaykh, he said, if he deemed himself to divorce, then the divorce takes place. And if some of the scholars gave him the fatwa that he's divorced, then the divorce will take place. And also the Shaykh, he said that the divorce will not take place except with 2 shuhud. But if he wants to go ahead with it, even without the 2 shuhud, it will take place. So, in sha'a amdah wa illa tarak. Shaykh al-Tabi said, Shaykh al-Albani says, either he will go ahead with it, even without witnesses, and he will go ahead, or he would say, I'm backing off. But if he took witnesses, he cannot back off. So for the sake of the wives who are listening, and for the sake of the husbands who are listening, to fear Allah Azza wa Jal in regard to the divorce, when you divorce, take witnesses. And if that husband of yours did not take witnesses, you could call somebody on the spot to have him as a witness, because that he's divorcing. Okay? Straight away, if those 2 witnesses to witness that they've heard the husband with his full consent that he divorced, regardless of what he says later on, he changes his statement, because some of the husband, unfortunately, they play around with the rules of Allah and the laws of Allah Azza wa Jal. They say, I did not divorce, and he actually divorced. Okay? So unfortunately for the sisters, if the husband denied, she did not have any witness, she has to go with him, and he's sinned. It's between him and Allah Azza wa Jal. He's very sinned for that. So shuhud is to be from the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to take shuhud. Right. Now we come to the following chapter, and that is the khul'. The al-raj'a. Number 4. Tfaddal.
The types of divorce with respect to being revocable or irrevocable.
Yes, that's the one that we'll be talking about. Now you'll understand what it is. Tfaddal.
Divorce is either revocable or irrevocable. If it is irrevocable,
revocable or irrevocable, reversible or irreversible, same word. Now,
if it is irrevocable, it is either the greater irrevocable divorce or the lesser irrevocable divorce.
We're going to explain that in a minute, inshallah. Now,
the revocable divorce is that divorce which takes place after the marriage has been consummated, was not in exchange for wealth, and is preceded by no or only one divorce.
Okay.
Allah.
Wait a second, take it easy. So this second definition of the divorce, which is revocable, reversible. This is a divorce. Number 1, it is for a woman whom her marriage is being consummated. So if the marriage was not consummated just as a contract, this is not revocable. It is irrevocable. So this is revocable. That means she's going to be in a cooling off period. Revocable, I could reverse it. I could revoke it. I want to bring her back. So it is to be, number 1, the woman had her marriage consummated. Okay, it's number 1. Number 2, it says here, without it's not in return of money. Because if it's in return of money, it becomes khul'. It's like the wife is saying, I'll give you some of my mahr, or £100 or whatever part of or all the dowry that you gave me, but give me a divorce. That becomes khul'. And that is irrevocable. Not revocable. That's irrevocable. Okay? Because this definition is very important. Every single word of it is very important. Third word he says, and this divorce is not being preceded by any divorce or by one divorce. But not by 2. So it's either this the fresh divorce, or it's a divorce which is preceded by one divorce. He divorced and he brought her back. This is the second divorce. but it's not more than that, because if it was after 3 divorces, it is irrevocable. Okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, الطلاق مرتان فإمساك بمعروف أو تسريح بإحسان. Translate please.
The divorce is twice. After that, either you retain her on reasonable terms or release her with kindness. The woman who is revocably divorced remains the man's wife as long as she is in her waiting period. Her husband has the right to return her as his wife at any time during the waiting period without her consent or that of her guardian being a precondition.
Now, very important here that when she is revocably divorced, she's still his wife. That means if one of them to die, they will inherit one another. Still his wife. She's not allowed to leave her house. He's not allowed to kick her out of the house. She's still his wife. It's been meant to be his wife. And she's same thing, to beautify herself and to take off the hijab. And she's still her husband, even he divorced her, but she's still in the cooling off period. Allah made this maybe that he divorced her and then now he's contemplating, she's contemplating, maybe it's better to go back to each other. But the right of him going to her, the right of going back to her is the right of the husband. So if she was willing to go to him and back to him, even that she provoked him to get him to divorce her, and she started, and he doesn't want to, khalas, he divorced her, I want to go back. It's his saying, it's his action, it's his decision. And if he decided to go back to her within the cooling off period, and she does not want to, she's not allowed. She's not allowed. She could ask for khul'. That's a different chapter, which is, I'll give you money, even if he doesn't accept the money. As long as this is called iwad, iftida, ransoming. I'm ransoming myself. Please release me. I don't want you. Okay? So that's different. But if she's in the cooling off period, this reversible, revocable divorce, within the iddah, which we're going to be talking about, what is the iddah? The iddah, how many days and how many? It's usually 3 menses. Or if she doesn't menstruate, 3 months, or if she's pregnant until her pregnancy, she delivers the baby. So during that time, she's not allowed to come out of the house. He's not allowed to drive her out of the house. She's allowed to take off her clothes and everything. Even that would be inviting him to go back to her. Once he wants to go back to her, she's not entitled to say no. Don't approach me. Okay, so he will go back to her, and that's called raj'ah. Okay, it's called raj'ah. And there is no such thing that she has to accept it, or to exception of her wali. Wali means her father. Her father is not her wali yet. It's the husband her wali yet. Even that she's been divorced, but she is in a period, it's called reversible or revocable divorce. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَالْمُطَلَّقَاتُ يَتَرَبَّصْنَ بِأَنفُسِهِنَّ ثَلَاثَةَ قُرُوءٍ ولا يحل لهن أن يكتمن ما خلق الله في أرحامهن إن كن يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر وبعولتهن أحق بردهن في ذلك إن أرادوا إصلاحا. Translation please.
And divorced women shall wait as regards their marriage for 3 menstrual periods, and it is not lawful for them to conceal what Allah has created in their wombs, if they believe in Allah and the last day. And their husbands have the better right to take them back in that period if they wish for reconciliation.
This is the saying, alhamdulillah, of the talaq al-raj'i. Now, the talaq al-ba'in, he did not talk about it a lot. Talaq al-ba'in, which is irreversible. Irreversible. Now, also he did not say about the witnesses. So we're going to add here, when you want to bring her back, take 2 witnesses that she's back. Otherwise, you're going to have confusion. And I was involved in a situation where there was a sister, she had her brother, the husband of hers, who divorced her. And then he claims that he got back to her, but she says, no, he did not. The period is finished, he did not touch me. And there was a 1 year gap between that incident and this. And they had to resort to my Shaykh Rahmatullah Ali Muhammad Musa ibn Nasr when he was here. Both of them. And I was a translator, and I remember that very well. And it was something that, is she still his wife or not? He claims that she is. And she says, no. So they were talking to the Shaykh, and she said, well, he did not say to me that I am back. So my iddah is finished, and he's a stranger. He says, no, Shaykh, I kissed her. So she said, no, 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 he did not kiss me. He kissed me maybe from the back. SubhanAllah. I kissed her and I wanted her back. He did. He said, I'm not really knowledgeable to know that I should say to her, you are back. You don't have to anyway. That kissing of her, that means going back. But that's where the mistake is. Take 2 witnesses. 2 witnesses, there will be no dispute. Anyway, the Shaykh ruled after that, they're going to go back together as wife and a husband. SubhanAllah. Because the word is the word of the husband. It's not her word. I wanted her back and I kissed her. She said, well, you can't kiss me from the back. Something like this effect. I'm talking about here 1994. We're talking about almost 26 years ago. Okay. Allah Musta'an. Right. So as for the irrevocable or reversible, he said either it is kubra or sughra. Sughra means irrevocable. That means you could go back to her, but with a new marriage. Okay? Baynuna sughra. Like for example, you divorced a woman whom you have not consummated the marriage. Straight away, there will be baynuna. She's not your wife anymore, and there's no cooling off period. But you could remarry her again, no problem. It's called baynuna sughra. Okay? Or that you have made a revocable divorce and the iddah is finished. She becomes baynuna sughra. This after the first divorce and after the second divorce. So after the iddah is finished, she becomes a stranger. But you're allowed to go back, but she becomes ba'in. Ba'in means separated. She's not your wife. You could go back to her after that with a new marriage, with a new contract, with a new dowry, with new witnesses, no problem. Also, the khul'. Al-khul', which is al-iftida, that we're going to be talking about, maybe not today, that also, once this takes place, it is as well separation, but I'm allowed to go back to her. But the one which is baynuna kubra, I can't go back to her at all. This is the divorce where it is after the second one. After the second one, the third divorce, there will be a iddah. Now the iddah is a difference among the scholars. Most of the scholars, they said 3 months. Sheikh Islam makes it 1 month, like the iddah of the khul'. Why? Because this iddah is not cooling off period. Why we want to hold the woman for 3 months? Because she's not going to go back to him anyway for 3 months. Plus, this is the 1 month just to make sure that she's not pregnant. Just like the one we make khul' with it, her iddah is 1 month. As I said, the different, when we talk about the iddah and the period and what is the difference, which opinion we champion, is it 1 month or 3 months? Regardless, but in both cases, she is a stranger straight away, and not only that, she cannot go back to him. It's called baynuna kubra until she marries somebody else, a proper marriage. Either the husband, the new one, will die, she could go back to her first husband, or that husband, the new one, divorces her, she go back to her old husband. Fine. By this, alhamdulillah, we have come to the end. And we wanted to talk about the khul', but the khul' takes a bit of time, so we'll leave the khul', inshallah, bi'idhnillah, to next in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks' time, yeah, not next week, 2 weeks' time, bi'idhnillah. And in that khul', also we're going to add as well other things that the book has not talked about, like for example, al-li'an. Okay, al-li'an is not being added. We will add that as well, inshallah. Now, so there's al-li'an, there's al-fasakh. All of these have not been mentioned in our book. Right. I don't know if you've been briefed regarding the questions or not, but the priority today goes to the people of Aylesbury. And if there is no Aylesbury, then we'll give 3 minutes to Aylesbury, inshallah.
Yeah, today's Aylesbury. I have some questions on the panel from Aylesbury as well, Sheikh. So if we don't have any hands up, I'll start, inshallah. The first one is, what is the meaning of the hadith? Why does any one of the people say, I have forgotten such and such verse of the Quran? Rather, he was made to forget it.
I would have liked this question to be onto the topic, divorce. I mean,
okay. I mean, I've got some non-Aylesbury one on divorce. I've got a few.
Anybody who is on divorce, put your hands up, please. Allah, Abu Yusuf, fadal. Abu Yusuf.
Okay.
What was Abu Abdullah first or Abu Yusuf? I don't know which one.
Abu Yusuf was.
Yalla, Abu Yusuf, fadal.
If a couple marry in a Muslim country,
you're too far from the speaker. I can't hear you.
If a couple marry in a Muslim country, come to the UK, for example, and then the husband initiates a divorce without no witness and writes a letter to confirm that, will this divorce still count? And they notify the family of the ex-wife now back in the Muslim country.
It will, but I'm just saying this is not the, as soon as the husband makes a divorce, whether he writes it or says it, and he intends to do it, and he wants to go along with it, the witnesses is something like an extra. This is for the sunnah, for the deen, for the sake of not backing off. Okay? So he will be sinned for not taking witnesses, but the divorce will take place. So if somebody just said to his wife, between them and four walls, you're divorced, and he left. She's divorced because he went along with it. The problem is that if, for example, later on after the iddah, she gets married to somebody else and he comes back, I haven't divorced you. She divorced you. Okay? So the best thing, the divorce, just like we have made i'lan and ishar for the marriage, we make ishar for the divorce. Ishar for the what? For the iddah. For their coming back, for raj'ah. Because as I said, some people can play around with this. Our Sheikh, whenever he used to make an issue of divorce at that time, not our Sheikh al-Albani, it's not different. He will bring the person in this country, whom I learned on his hands as well, Shafi. He will bring the person and two witnesses, and he will write him a piece of paper of divorce and two witnesses for somebody who was married outside the country. No problem. Now.
Okay. Question from sister. After a man divorced his wife one time, is she permanently divorced now if he didn't take her back within the iddah, or does he need to issue the second and third divorce?
I like that. Does he need to issue a second? If she wants to get rid of him for permanently, yani? Like, she's allowed, yani, once the iddah is finished, she's strangers. He's not allowed to go back to her except with her consent. To be a new marriage, a new witnesses, a new dowry, a new party, a new everything. A new walima. And it's up to her if you want to go back or not. After the iddah period, she's not his wife. So the matter would be referred to be in her hand and the hand of her original wali. Not the husband. No.
Okay. Abdullah 105.
Yeah, Sheikh, we've seen it regarding the divorce of joking divorce and the what do they call it? And the divorce of witnesses and the divorce of writing as well. I mean, the divorce, it goes straight away. But today, when you said, it's divorced, when you say it upon 1,000 times, or you divorce it 3-4 times, it counts one divorce. Why the other ones, it doesn't count one divorce as well? And they're just divorced, straight away. Did you get me?
No.
Okay. We've seen the last week, the divorce, joking divorce. I mean, when the husband is joking with his wife, he's saying you're divorced. I mean, it counts straight away as divorce.
Yeah.
And the divorce on writing as well, on a piece of paper, it counts as straight away divorce.
Mm.
And the divorce when you have 2 witnesses or 3, it counts straight away divorce.
Mm.
But when we said, after that we said, when you say to your wife, you're divorced, you divorced 3 times or 4 times, it counts just one. That's maybe
You divorce. It takes place, but it's only one. I don't understand what you're saying.
What about the other ones? It doesn't take place as just once.
The other one takes place once, and this one takes once, Ya Abdullah. I can't see the difference.
Ah, okay.
All of them takes once. No, nothing takes. You cannot divorce a woman who's already divorced. That's the whole thing. When you say divorce, the first divorce, okay, took place. So the second one, divorcing what? A woman who's already divorced? Do you understand that? So it will count, but it will count one. So when I say you are divorced to the power million, it's one, will count. When I said that even you joking, you are divorced, or I joked again, you are divorced, it will take one.
And it would be after that for iddah, and after that, if he's going to take her back or not.
Within the iddah, if he returned her back and he divorced her again, it will be counted.
Is it the same for joking as well? The husband who was joking with his wife as well? It's going to be same for iddah.
What do you mean like joking? Like, for example, I divorced you and I was joking. It will take place.
Yeah, that means it can take place once, and after that iddah, and if he wants to take her back or not.
Yeah, it will. But I don't know, this person is going to be joking to take a iddah? The Prophet ﷺ, he said, 3 things which are the joking of it is counted to be not joke. Divorce, and that is marriage, and that is to bring her back when she is in her iddah. 3 things will take place. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Sheikh. Barakallahu fi.
Jazakumullah.
Okay, Sheikh. If a person is having marital issues because of the mother-in-law, is it better for the husband to move out for the sake of his marriage and children, or should he stay in the house to look after his mother? She's getting old, and if they move out, she will be on her own.
Well, he has to move out for his wife, and he has to go on with his mother to look after her. Both has to be fulfilled. There's a problems and all of that. Now, what you need to do to make sure that his wife, she's not being made dhulm upon her. Maybe it's his mother, she's making dhulm upon her, because she's not compelled and slaverized for you to go and make it to serve your mother. You are the one who's slaverized for your mother, not her. So go and get yourself a place for her, but she cannot tell you you have to stay with me. No, you have to go and look after your mother. So you don't really leave her rights. She could, for example, she could have once every 4 nights, 1 night. Imagine you're married to 4, and you are going between the 4. So every 4 nights you got entitled for 1 night. And you're entitled to go 3 nights and days in with your mother. But you don't need to do that. You could see your mother all day, and you leave the night for the wife, and she'll be happy, inshallah.
Okay. What is the ruling if someone got married when they both were Muslim?
I'll tell you what as well, if you couldn't really as well, this is another solution, is to expand the house where you could make a separation inside the house. The wife, she wants to have her kingdom, and her kingdom is 2 things, bedroom and kitchen. If she has her independence in her room and her bedroom and her kitchen, she doesn't care what goes behind the wall. So nobody wants to tell her, you did not wash the plates. Even a word, it injures her. She doesn't like it. Being told off, you look at her, she's lazy. Or just a hint, she doesn't wash the cups. It's her kingdom. She's the queen. So that's why you live in her kingdom. She wants to do whatever she wants. Then after that, so you could just jump from one wall to another. That will make it easy for you, inshallah. Naam.
So just before we go to Anis, what is the ruling if someone got married when they were both Muslim, but later on the man became an atheist? They are both still husband and wife until now. Is this marriage still valid?
We're going to talk about, it's called fasakh. Straight away, when one of the 2 parties, one of the 2 becomes non-Muslim, the divorce doesn't take place. It's called fasakh, invalidation of the contract. She's not his wife anymore, and he's not her husband anymore. It's called faskhun, invalidation, because one of the conditions of the marriage is Islam. The husband. So if the wife becomes a Christian or Jewish, that's a difference amongst the scholars. But we're talking about that the husband became Christian or Jewish or any other religion. But she became, or both of them became atheist, one of them, marriage is invalid. There's no such thing as divorce and husband and wife. She can't be with him. Straight away, fasakh, separation. Okay. No marriage between them until they both become one of them, or one of the person who committed apostasy to come back to the deen. And I had to deal with this case a long time ago. There was a person who was married to a woman who was a Christian and supposedly embraced Islam. And they had children, I think 1 or 2, can't remember. And that sister, she used to come to me. That's about as well 20 years ago or more. No, 15 years ago, I would say. And she wanted to see. So I've sent him a message to come to me. I want to see before I start divorce. Maybe this marriage is invalid. Because he doesn't fast, he doesn't pray, he doesn't. And when he came to the masjid, he sat at the back. He did not even join us in the prayer. So I sat with him and please excuse me, and just make sure that what you say is going to be counted. So know what you're saying. I'm not imposing upon you Islam or not, but we want to know what this. So basically, he says things that I couldn't rule that he's not a Muslim. I couldn't say that to dare that he's not a Muslim. But for me, in my heart, he's not a Muslim. But from his word, he said, okay, all right. But she wants then, if it is the case, she's asking from you a khula'. We went through the papers of the khula', and he's alhamdulillah, she's been released from him. Now.
Okay. Anis, the mic. Actually, I think you're blocking me, so I can't ask the question. Okay, alhamdulillah.
Naam.
It's just a question about divorce again. When somebody's angry or they've been...
I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
No, you're
Very tinny.
very bad. Very bad.
Okay, don't worry. Hello, can you hear me?
The question and we'll read it, inshallah.
Okay. All right, Sheikh.
Yeah, his sound is really.
Yeah, it's tinny, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but something wrong with it. Now.
Okay, Sheikh, under what conditions does someone have to obey their parents if they tell you to divorce your wife? Can the son refuse?
If the parents want you to divorce your wife, either these parents are religious, proper religious, not just in the religious, proper, then you have to obey them. But if they're not religious, you don't have to obey them, but at the same time, you don't have to be rude to them. So you could just say to them, yeah, inshallah, and they just keep postponing for nothing. But if they're religious, so when Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anh commanded his son Abdullah ibn Umar to divorce his wife, let's ask ourselves the following question. Abdullah ibn Umar, good person or not good person? He's not just a good person, he's a companion, and he was one of the best companions. One of the best companions. Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu. Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma, do you think that he chose any wife or he chose a religious wife? Definitely chose a religious wife. His father would not accept him to marry a dancer, for example. Proper religious wife. But Umar al-Khattab, he didn't like that marriage. He saw something, maybe that he's in too much deep love of her. That's what the scholars have interpreted. That he's taking him away from the deen. It's not correct. So he said, divorce her. Now, he couldn't say no to his father because his father, Umar al-Khattab, yani, if your father, Umar al-Khattab, you just obey without any question. He couldn't say no or yes, but he went to the Prophet ﷺ to seek help. Because he knows the only person can make Umar al-Khattab, his father, to be quiet and not to ask that question is the Prophet. So he went to the Prophet, the Messenger of Allah, my father is commanding me to divorce my wife. Now listen, Prophet of Allah did not ask why. Prophet of Allah did not ask what is your quality, the wife quality of yours. He did not ask anything. He said, Ati' abak, obey your father. He wanted to take the help of the father, the Prophet. The Prophet was on the side of Umar. Ati' abak, talliqa, divorce her. So he went straight away. So the Prophet said that, he divorced her. So we would say that scholars said, if you are Shaykh al-Albani, or Shaykh al-Albani said, if your father is like Umar in terms of piety and all of that, and he sees something that you don't see, obey them. But if they don't, if they are not abiding, if they think that she's too white, too black, too dark, too guru, too gura, whatever they want to say this word, to chaudhry, no chaudhry, then you don't obey them, but at the same time you don't be rude to them. Now,
okay. What is the ruling if someone says she's a single mom but actually is married and staying with her husband? She's lying in order to get more benefit.
Hassan, just come in a second. One second. One second, please.
Inshallah.
But just 1 second.
Oh, I can't see the record. There we go. Yes.
Sure.
Okay. What is the ruling if someone says she's a single mom but actually is married and staying with her husband? She's lying in order to get more benefit.
So then a great question because I might not answer it. Go again.
Okay, so what is the ruling if someone says she is a single mom but actually is married and staying with her husband? She's lying in order to get more benefit.
I cannot answer these questions.
Okay.
No.
All right, the rest, oh no, there's one more marriage-related one. After going to the judge and the ruling goes to the husband, what happens to the sister if the brother knows deep down he meant the talaq?
The question again.
Okay, so after going to the judge
Yeah.
and the ruling goes to the husband.
The judge, which judge? I mean, the judge of what?
It just says judge, it doesn't say Islamic judge or.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Arbitrator.
So they sided with the husband. It says, what happens to the sister if the brother knows deep down he meant the talaq?
Well, it doesn't matter what he meant deep down. What he says outwardly. We said that. We counted upon what he says. As I said, he could be meant the divorce, but he denies. So he sinned, but the divorce will not take place. We'll take him what he is saying outwardly. We don't know what he said insidely. We leave that to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now.
Okay, the rest of the questions are non-subject related. So we can have people raising their hands as well.
Nobody give us. There's one. Fazal Ibrahim.
Fazal, okay.
Allah Fazal.
Not on divorce, right, Sheikh?
Fadal.
Okay. Sheikh, when we pray lying down due to illness on our side and our back, can we still do Raf or Liyadain if we are able to?
You do as much as you can. As Allah Azza wa Jal, He said, فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. Fear Allah as much as you can. Okay? Yes.
Thank you.
Jazakallah. Can I ask you, Hassan, those questions from Aylesbury, which you started with, and they were not from the divorce, you remember?
Sure, yeah, I've got 3 of them. So the first one was, it's a hadith from Bukhari and Muslim. What is the meaning of the hadith? Why does any one of the people say, I have forgotten such and such verse of the Quran? Rather, he was made to forget it.
The explanation of that?
Understanding of that hadith.
Yeah, that means يعني لا تقول نسيت وإنما قل نسيت. That means the shaitan made me to forget. That's what the meaning of it. The shaitan made me to forget. Now.
Okay. Is it permissible to buy and sell cats?
So always when you say be made to be forgotten, and this is from the Adab al-Alfaz, the wordings, etiquettes, as we have learned from the Prophet ﷺ. For example, don't call the alcohol the karm. For verily, the karm is the heart of the believer. Karm. So these are words which are attached to meanings, and that reminds the person of, especially living at that time, that is lingering to things which is not halal, like khamr and all of this. So don't say, for example, khabuthat nafsi, my soul was corrupted. That word. Laqusat nafsi. So Prophet ﷺ, he would choose you the better word. Now, so the better word now, instead of nasit, nusit. وما أنسانيه إلا الشيطان. Now.
Okay. Is it permissible to buy and sell cats?
Not allowed to buy a cat, nor to sell a cat. Cats is to be given as a gift, or taken from the cat orphanage, they say, or whatever. But you can't. Prophet ﷺ naha an thamani sinnaw. Prophet of Allah forbade the actual price or the purchase of the sinnaw. Sinnaw is the cat. Even if it's a cat made to be a skillful cat that is to catch rats, because all the cats can't catch rats or mice. We don't pay money for that. Now.
Okay, the last one from Aylesbury is, in a previous class, you said it is not permissible to say the dua of going to sleep and waking up when taking a nap during the day. But aren't these supplications general and not tied to time?
No, the dua, akhi, the sleep is the sleep of the night. إِذَا أَوَيْتَ إِلَى مَضْجِعِكَ. The sleep of the night. And the iwa is for the sleep, not for the nap. We don't have any of the Prophet ﷺ in his naps, he had said these du'as. No.
Okay, Wahad Shifan, go ahead.
The naps usually stay is that a person who is not really even prepared for it. He's just knocked down. When you come to, so he's so tired and he got a nap. But when he goes to the bed, he's preparing himself to sleep, it's different. طيب, I'm going to ask Muhammad. If you finish your questions, yes?
Yeah, I mean, I've got more, but the Aylesbury ones are finished, yes.
Okay. Muhammad Shifans.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. Kaifak?
تفضل حياكم الله.
I'm calling from Reversible again. This is regarding celebrating of Eid on, someone saw the Hilal in Kenya and all that, and people celebrated day before everyone. So is it okay to celebrate that way? Because Middlesbrough, I know a lot of families celebrated on that day.
It's up to them. You are celebrating with the people who are with you. So some people celebrated on that day, and some celebrated on Monday, you know, Al-Ithnain.
Yeah.
We got one which is on As-Sabt, one on Al-Ahad, and one on Al-Ithnain. I celebrate with the people who are around me. I cannot be separated on my own. As long as I fasted 29 minimum, maximum 30. I can't fast 31. I can't fast 28. So if I fasted 29 and 30, I'm entitled to do my Eid with the community of ours, even though I don't agree with their way of citing. But I cannot make my own citing. I cannot. I have to be attached to the community beside me. So for example, if I'm living here and I'm attached to such and such masjid, but my origin is in Sri Lanka or whatever, and those people sold their moon in somewhere else, I can't go, oh, I'm Sri Lanka, I will attach myself with them. No, I'll attach myself by the Sri Lanka community who are here in this country.
Yeah.
With what citing? Because we already there's a split amongst the ummah. We don't want to make the split more splitting. We've got our split already, 3 days of Eid. Al-Jumu'ah, Al-Sabt, sorry, Al-Ahad, Al-Ithnain, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So we're going to make as well into the split, another split. So we are in this country. I'm going to be splitting from this masjid who's already been split, from the community who's already split from the other Muslim countries. SubhanAllah. To minimize it as much as we can, Prophet Allah said, "Sawmukum yawma tasumun." A very easy solution. You fast when everybody fasts around you. And when you make the Eid, when everybody makes Eid around you. When you make the Qurban slaughtering, when everybody makes a slaughtering. We don't really make our own. And that is why when one of the followers, he came to Aisha radiallahu anha, and this is Hadith of Habbar. So he said basically that she had given him some food, and it was the day of the Eid in Medina. And he said, I don't know, you know, it could be the day of Arafah today. So he thought that because the day of Arafah is fasting and he doesn't want to, doesn't want to break his fast. So you just eat. For verily, Prophet of Allah, he said, Eidukum, Fitrukum, when you fast together. When you break your fast, you break your fast together. And when you make Adha together. So you can't have your own day of Arafah because you've seen the moon in such and such place. It's when everybody. It's not when you saw it. So the day today is not the day of Arafah, the day of Eid, because everybody's having the Eid. Okay, so she gave him the food and he had eaten. No.
Sheikh, it's Maghrib now, so should we call it?
Yeah, خلاص, we just said that'll be the last question.
Okay,
أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. جزاكم الله خيرا. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك. جزاكم الله خير.